Happy Tuesday. Thanks for joining us today. We are recording this call and the hope of we can share it with some leaders and offices to improve their leadership skills. So first, I want to thank Gurneet, one of our newest consultants in the business, for taking the initiative. I know we were going back and forth all weekend about how we could help everyone in the business in general level up some of their skill sets and their leadership skills. My name's Ken. I'm a consultant out of Michigan. We have some owners joining us over the next few weeks. I see Jordan on today. What's up, Jordan? And Miles and Jamie and Kathleen. Lots of owners. Dan, I know, and just on, we have like 4 or 5 screens here, actually 9 for 200 people on today, which is awesome. But Ganeet, you want to say hello real quick and we're going to jump right in.
Hey, what's up, guys? Super excited for this series. Just remember, guys, take a lot of notes. There's a lot of good stuff, and just understand the psychology of the stuff that we're going to go over. This is really, really good stuff. It's always the little stuff that really helps us in our business. So thank you, guys.
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, and listen, this is some of you, it's your off day. Some of you, I know you're working today and taking some time out to level yourself up. It's always the extra that you do that helps you get great in the business world. So we're going to we're going over recruiting today. So I want to go through some recruiting statistics and I'm sorry, recruiting psychology, some data backed by some research. So if you're in a place to take notes, I'd encourage you to do that, like he said. And Gurneet, I see you. Can you see? Can you see my yellow? The psychology of recruiting top talent. Okay.
Yes.
So the psychology of recruiting top talent. There's some basic principles that we wanted to cover today on how to attract and retain high performers. I'm going to go through some of the psychology, and then Gurneet's going to cover some tactical things to do in the actual recruiting process. So there's 5 big reasons why someone would join an organization. Number 1 is purpose and belonging. People have to feel the purpose behind your culture. If they feel purpose, they're going to be loyal. And so, the Deloitte did a study, Harvard did a study. You can read it. The more meaningful something is, the more likely somebody is to join your organization. So what does that mean? So for me, when I was a young recruiter, I used to use the word you a lot. So I see my buddy Luke on the call. He's a leader in our office. I would say, Luke, when you're in this role, when you're in that role, when you're doing this, we give too much ownership if you're using the word you in the interviewing process. So the better way to recruit, the more pro tip to recruit is saying, when I am in this role, when I was learning fundamental sales, when I was learning how to teach and mentor. And again, and it keeps the indifference, but talk from personal experience about the purpose, about the belonging. There's a lot of different ways that companies and offices are recruiting today. Sometimes you're doing it in person. Sometimes you're doing it over Zoom. Sometimes you have maybe a pamphlet or some type of paperwork. Sometimes you have a slide deck like this. But understanding those slides and understanding those tools will help you be a better recruiter talking from personal experience. Number 2 is first impressions. First impressions matter. Princeton Research did some research that people will make an impression of you within a second. LinkedIn talks about how 83% of candidates will say a negative interview experience will change their opinion. Right? So what does that mean? I've personally in my office, I'm just, maybe not too proud to say, but it is what it is. We're all learning. I secret shop my recruiters, my leaders, people doing the recruiting, if I'm not actually doing it myself. And I've actually seen someone in the last 30 days be in their car during an interview. And I'm like, oh my gosh. That person did not make it through the process. And it was because they didn't pick us. Why wouldn't they pick us? Well, how you show up matters, right? A recruit is asking themselves if they want to be around you, if they can trust you, and that's how you look, your attire, again, how prepared you are. And also be careful what you say in the interview, because that's like the wet cement theory of training. If you say something about culture, you say something about what's going to happen when they join the team, then they're going to pay attention. It's like my kids. If I say something, hey, you said, Daddy, we were going to do this later. Yeah, you're right. We are going to do that later. But that's the candidate. They may not call you out, but they're going to remember and they'll call you out in the when they show up essentially, and that'll be whether or not they continue to be a part of your team or not and stick around. Number 3, scarcity creates value. So in the recruiting process, again, different offices have different processes. Different offices do in office. Offices do the Zoom interview. What's the next steps in the interviewing process? A great recruiter, if you happen to be in charge of the second interview, maybe you're in charge of the final interview, maybe you're in charge of an initial interview. A great recruiter will understand the steps to their own process in their company. There are unfortunately candidates that fall out of the recruiting funnel, the recruiting process, because we simply don't follow up with them when we say we're going to follow up with them. People, expect a phone call at 4 o'clock. They don't get a phone call at all, or maybe they get it at 7 o'clock. A sharp candidate will question that employer because of those little things. So be aware that great candidates won't be on the market very long. And a good way to plug the hole is to understand your process in your office. Number 4, recognition over compensation. Recognition matters. Again, if you have pictures and you can show people your culture and show people how the recognition is, this has to do with the company's social media. Talk to your owners, talk to your managers, but the more you can share the positive energy that the offices and the companies put on their social media, on your own social media, there could be opportunities where people like what you post and maybe interested in doing what you're doing. And personal referrals and personal references are a great way. I think there's another study that 38% of employees get referred to a company by the current company and the current employees, right? So sharing those things on your own social media or just sharing them over the second interview could be a great way to be a great recruiter. And again, 65% of employees will work harder if they're simply recognized. I know as an organization, I believe as a business, we do a very good job of this, especially with our high rollers and our different things we do in the day-to-day of the offices. But just remember, when you're talking about how much you enjoy what you do, and I would share that how much you enjoy what you do, if you do it too much and you're too excited, that could be a negative too. It could be a little weird. So you got to learn how to communicate in a way that you have a little bit of indifference in that process. And then last but not least, number 5, energy, confidence. So energy, how you show up to an interview, how you show up to a call, how you show up to anything, it does matter. And it happens to be how you prepare, how you have your own self, your own me time, how you fill your own cup. People will feel that energy over an interview. I can tell you when I was 22 years old, before I started in this industry, I interviewed with a company called Franklin Templeton, investment banking company in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And the person who conducted my interview was not excited and was not just fun to be around. And that negged me out. And I remember my mom saying to me, she's like, "Oh, honey, I heard they offered you a position." And I was like, "Yeah, they did." And I was like, "I'm not taking it." She's like, "What? What do you mean you're not taking it?" And I was like, "I didn't really like the lady that did my interview. It didn't seem like a culture I wanted to be a part of." And my mom was, very smart to say, "You don't have a job. You need to get a job." And I was like, "I don't want that job." So we had a bit of a, disagreement to say the least. But thankfully I didn't take it because then I fell into this business. But obviously being someone worth following, that comes across in your energy. I've noticed in my own organization, in my own offices, people showing up to interviews late, people showing up disheveled and not ready to go. I would ask myself, if you looked at the resume before you conducted the interview, if you put notes on the resume, if you circled things you want to talk about. But again, how you show up really does matter to the interview. But just some takeaways: recruiting top talent, you have to be intentional. The best recruits will choose you. You will not choose them. Trust me when I say that. In 20 some years of building a business, 20 some years of recruiting, developing, coaching people, they will choose you because most great candidates have options and they're going to choose different opportunities based on little things throughout the process. And then at the end of the day, if you're young into this game, young into recruiting, young into, building a business or building an organization or building something. And again, I coach a 12-year-old soccer team, and we have recruiting that we do for the 12-year-old soccer team. But you got to own your 50% and not try to, get too far on the other side and decide what other people do. So Granit, that's what I had for the team today. Any thoughts on any of this? I know we talked a little bit ahead of this call, but any thoughts on this side? And again, really happy for you guys jumping on this call. It says a lot about what you want and what you want to accomplish in your future. Granit, over to you, bud.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. So, guys, first things first, for me, it's when I first joined the business, I was a leader. I understood that in our business, people equal freedom, right? You need a team. You will make more when other people around you are making more. So understand the psychology of knowing that, all right, like I'm the only way I'm going to get ahead in the business if I get really excited about this part of the business. I wanted to be the best recruiter. I wanted to be the best trainer. And I understood, all right, the way I bring myself, the way I show myself on a call, the way I carry myself is what people are going to be attracted to. I put myself in a position 12 years ago when I came into the business. What attracted me? What attracted me was a young 30-year-old sitting right in front of me, looking super sharp, talking about his life. He was empowering me. He was digging deep more into me. And that got me really close and connected to him. Majority of the people will join the business based on that they can trust you. So some common mistakes that I've seen along the way is a lot of people talk the business just based on the field. First thing is first understanding who your candidate is, right? What is your candidate looking for? Is he if it's a guy that's coming out of just out of school, will I really talk to really pitch the opportunity a lot to him? I'm not sure. Right. But I would talk to them about sales, growth, the experience, the learning curve that you can that guy that this opportunity can bring to the table. Right. As of comparison, if I'm talking to somebody that has a vast experience, he's been in a leadership role before, I'm going to talk to that guy more about Weston. All right, how far and where this business can take him. Right. But in order for you to do that, you got to understand it's like dating. Right. You're getting to know the person before. Right. So I'm in an interview. I am really trying to dig deep into them. You got to connect, right? I talk to them about their family and what's their passion. And if you look at through their resumes, you got to look, all right, were they an athlete? Were they in sports clubs? It'll tell you, like in school, like what did they do in school? What were their activities? What are their hobbies? I talk about a lot of these things because I'm trying to figure out the person that they are. What is more important to them? Right. One of my favorite questions that I like to ask beginning of the interview is like, all right, like I've been in that same position before. I'd be like, what is something that you're really looking for in the next company you work for? Right? What does your ideal position look like? Right? And they'll talk about it. Right. So you got to be able to emotionally connect with people because people want to feel empowered. Gary always told me, Gary did an interview workshop. He was empowering the other person. A lot of times we go through a script. A lot of times we're explaining the position as just as a sales position. You gotta explain it a little bit more. This is beyond sales. There's experience, there's leadership, there's so many skill sets that people can learn out of. Young individuals get excited about that. Number two is what Ken said, is your personal story. I think your personal story matters. The way you talk on an interview, right? The way your body language, your expressions. I'm going to give you guys a little tip. A lot of you guys do Zoom interviews on a phone, right? A lot of times we don't realize that sometimes you guys are doing an interview and are scrolling through a Zoom link on your phone. Well, guess what? They can see it from your eyes that you're looking at something else. We did this test in my office, and I kid you not, that people, it made the biggest difference because people can see, oh shit, this guy's not paying attention. He's not serious, right? It's the littlest things on the interviews that make the biggest difference, right? It's the way you're showing up. It's like what Ken just said, my energy. I'm talking like this because I'm passionate about what I do. I want the other person to feel, right? But this is who I am in general. Some questions that I ask, which you guys can write down, is sometimes when I'm going through the experience and I'm looking through their job, their previous job positions, I say, when I call your last employer and ask them, and I have to ask them, what do you need to work on the most? What would they say? Another question I ask them, what what did you hate about your last job? Right? Like they'll get some crazy answers when when like you ask them these questions. I also ask them, describe your best boss. I like to ask them, what does leadership mean to you? Right? What would you? I ask them, hey, if you were given an opportunity to create a team culture, what are some of the things you would do? Because I am trying to dig deep on an interview. For me, it's not just about talking about a script and a sales position. For me, it's about getting to know that person. For me, it's me finding out who Ken really is
So
first.
can we do an
Yep.
example of one of those, right? I know we yesterday we talked a little bit about how some questions are surface level and then you peel back the onion, and that's a real skill to learn how to peel back the onion.
Sure. So you asked me the
You
question,
be
and
the
I'll
no,
answer.
I'm the candidate. You're the interviewer.
Okay. Hey Ken, how are you? So I hear it says that it says that you wanted to be an entrepreneur and your dad's running a business. I just kind of want to know like where do you get that from? Is it your parents? Where's the inspiration coming from for you to be 23 years old and you're studying entrepreneurship in school?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I have family that run companies. I'm Hispanic, so I'm half Colombian. So the Colombian side of the family, a couple uncles run businesses, and I just see their lifestyle. And then parents, entrepreneur on one side, engineer on the other side. So it's just very different lifestyles. And so when I get older and I have a family someday, I want to have choices. I want to have freedom.
So your family's had a big influence on you?
Yeah, especially my mom's side of the family, the Colombian side, because coming up in a third world country, I've only been there a few times, but it's a very big difference in places like that where people have money and people who don't, and I know it's all because they started their own business.
Wow, so you're at such a young age to have that type of perspective, can not many people have it at a young age? It seems like, you care a lot about the people and the community, and seems like you're very grateful for where you've come from. Like that thought process is very new in this generation.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
it seems like leadership is something you enjoy.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, listen, yeah, I mean, I wanna do well. I don't know why, since a young kid, I've always felt this responsibility to come through. My mom didn't come to America for nothing, kind of thing. I don't know. She kind of brainwashed me to believe that I could do whatever I put my mind to, and yeah, I just kind of felt like she made that sacrifice for a big reason, and I want to do something about it.
Yeah, Ken, it's so funny. My family came through a similar path. My parents were immigrants, and they came in and they worked hard, and I'm around a lot of business people also that have been able to change a lot of people's lives. So that inspired me to make a change and do something. And one of the biggest reasons, Ken, I love what I do because it allows me to really be a good example around the people in the office. I love our atmosphere. I love the way it allows me to portray being a good example is. But that's awesome, Ken. So do you guys understand like how
Thank you.
we're digging deep into one answer? Like we'll keep digging deep. Is that Ken? Is that where we're getting at?
Yeah, and I think the piece that I wanted to point out is it's not scripted,
Correct.
right? It's not
Feels
scripted
real.
and it's real. right?
Yeah.
And people, somebody said to me in an interview, I sit here and I don't know if I had my jersey on or what I did, and I had my suit jacket on, and they said something about soccer, and I was like, "Are you a soccer fan? Who's your team? Come on!" And I just had like a conversation with someone like I would be talking to you guys, and I tend to tease them. I was like, "Oh, you're an Arsenal fan? Like, oh, come on, really?" But I don't want to be like anyone else. I want to be me, right? And if I'm not good enough for that candidate to come work with us, that's okay. I'm cool with that. But the mistake most people make is you're not yourself. You try to act like someone else. And that's like, that's the tricky part because then you're not authentic, right? But be your authentic self. All right. Sorry, I made the Arsenal comment. Sorry. That wasn't the point. All right. Over to you, Gurney.
Some things that I would also avoid, guys, is talking about politics and a lot of bias-based conversations, right? Like you don't really need to get on an interview and talk about Democrats, Republicans, which president you like, what are your views on like current events. It should be very generic because you're dealing with different religions, different personalities, different backgrounds, what you might, and a lot of times, you know what I've noticed, guys? And Ken emphasized on it, guys, our language on Zoom has got to get better. Sometimes we don't even realize the amount of slang we use in an interview, right? It really makes us look unperf. It's the little things, right? It's like, and sometimes I even catch myself with my verbiage, right? I think it's very important that you guys understand that, the verbiage that's coming out of our mouth, the topics. Like I build CPR, I always try to build CPR based on that's going to make them feel good and empower them. Number two, I don't really try to sell the position. I'm not here, the psychology, you got to understand the psychology. I'm not here to sell the position at all. They're here for an interview. So I'm indifferent. What ends up a lot of times happening, people oversell the company, the position, and it makes it seem like we're desperate to just hire anybody. Right? I don't. Right? This is who we are. I mentioned, hey, we work with Fortune 50 clients. Hey, there's an upward lateral movement. I mentioned that, hey, based on performance. I mentioned that, hey, this might not be for anyone. This might not for anyone that's kind of a bad work ethic. Right? I'm very transparent about, the type of candidate that will do well in our industry, right? And I think a lot of times what happens is that we try to oversell the position by just talking about we're this, we're that. If you come in, hey, we're gonna give you this, we're gonna give you that. No, you don't need to do any of that, right? They'll personally connect with your story. They'll personally connect with the way you relate to them and the way you make them feel. And remember, you gotta give them what they think they're looking for. You gotta talk more about that. If someone's constantly mentioning you growth, leadership, you talk about that a lot, right? You talk about that aspect of a lot. You don't divert and talk about something else because that makes it seem like, all right, like it's not probably what they're looking for. I don't know if you want to
And
touch
hey,
more about that, Ken. Go ahead.
yeah, so I know Shalon is on today, and,
Yep.
and we had talked to her a little bit about joining in the conversation. So, Shalon, thank you for joining us. I know there's so many people on. I missed you. I'm sorry. But Shalon, any thoughts on anything we've talked about so far?
I do have 5 points I wanted to go over, that I prepared, but I don't know if Gurney wants to finish up his thoughts before I jump in.
Shilan, go ahead. You got
Okay.
the floor.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for having me on. I'm so excited for this, and everyone wants to learn and hopping on their off day. This is amazing. Something that I learned when I was Adam's office, I served in Adam Dorfman's office, and I remember Brandy Park was in our office one day, and and the way she talks about interviewing and how you're treating people when you are doing an interview, that just like changed my mindset a lot. And she said something like, if the person that's coming, we used to do in-person interviews, some of us still doing in-person interviews. So imagine if the person that's coming in to do the interview or on Zoom, if this person is the person that's gonna take you to ownership, if this is the person that's going to take you to consultant, this is going to be the person that's going to be your first outside deal. If this is the person that's going to blow up your team, if you go with that intention every single time you're doing an interview, instead of just treating it like it's just an interview. We can't judge people, right? If every single time you go with that kind of energy, it makes a massive, I think, difference. She ran this call or like this meeting for us in the morning. That very day, the interview I had was the girl that helped me get to assistant management on my team. Just because my approach with it was just very different. I was just like, okay, I'm not expecting to get 9s and 10s. Don't expect to get 9s and 10s. You don't want 9s and 10s. You want 6, 7, 8s that you can turn them into a 9 and 10, right? It's entry level sales. Like, that's all we want. We want people to have great work ethic, have great student mentality, have a great attitude. And our job is, that's a part of recruiting, is to develop them, right? So I'm not super picky. I'm not super picky with who I bring on, as long as they have those things that, and Gurneet mentions this a lot in his interview, is I'm looking for the things that are intangible. I'm looking for the things that I cannot teach. I can teach you sales. I can teach you how to talk to people. I can teach you critical conversations, but I'm looking for integrity. I'm looking for student mentality. I'm looking for work ethic. I can't teach you hunger. And I talk about that in the interview, and I ask them, you think you have those things, right? So what kind of energy would you start the interview with? What kind of tonality would you have with this person you're interviewing if this person is gonna take your team to be blown up, right? So I want you guys to have that in mind. It's kind of like my intro, but a few things I wanted to go over before getting into that. The other thing I want you guys to think about. Well, actually, let's just jump in. My number one is perfect practice makes perfect pitch. Practice doesn't make perfect, but perfect practice makes perfect, right? So practice a lot. Sometimes I have people coming in and they're like, can I just get an interview? And I'm like, okay, when was the last time you did a little practice? Your manager spends so much money. I mean, I was just calculating when these guys were talking, just for the people to show up on interviews. I have a couple of recruiters in my team. I spent so much on ads. Your manager spends so much money on ads. They're probably spending right around, I don't know, maybe more, maybe less, different office, but I counted like it's almost $200 just for the interview to show up per person. I'm not talking about them turning into a news star, by the way. That's going to be a lot more expensive. $200-300 for them just to show up. That's your manager investing in you to like, hey, you got this $200, $300 opportunity. What you're going to do with it, right? That's why it's really important to come in practice, perfect practice, ready to go. Practice your pitch, practice your conversations, record yourself on Zoom, practice with your leaders. So when it's showtime, you're not waiting to be ready for it. Some of you guys are here just because you're kicking ass in the field and your manager saw something in you and you're ready to take the next role, but don't wait for you to be given an interview. Practice and just get really good at it right now. So when the opportunity is there, you're the first person that's jumping on it. My second point is remember, and this is something that Gurneet sent something from Jamie Hep yesterday to us, Road to Management. And he, in one of his points, Jamie Hep talks about mastering recruiting. He talks about whenever that that this person that you're interviewing, they're so lucky to have the opportunity to be in our business, that's when you master recruiting. This is an amazing opportunity. I don't know about you guys, but I'm from an entrepreneurship family. There's a lot of entrepreneurs around me. So when I started in this business, my mind was blown of how much support I had and how I can just literally just work on myself and then learn how to run a business. And someone is willing to just teach me how to run a business, like that blew my mind, right? So to get that opportunity to learn from someone else who's crushing it and get that for free and get paid for it, that to me is massive opportunity. Anyone that you're interviewing, they will be lucky to work with you, to learn from as somebody that's absolutely crushing it every single week with their business and providing opportunity. So have that kind of confidence, like Gurneet was talking about, Kim was talking about. That's the kind of confidence I want you guys to have. You're going with it with the confidence of they're lucky to be on this interview and to get this job. You have the job already, they don't, right? So you're not trying to, your job is to impress them, but your job is to make sure that they want the job, you're the picky one. Does that make sense? I don't know if these are helpful or not. I'm just going through my notes. Okay, so number 3, you should be able to bring anyone on board. You should be so good at interviewing and get your practice so good that anyone can bring probably a 3s and 4s on board. Can you bring a 6 and a 7 on board? And if you're good at bringing 6 and 7s on board, can you bring a 7s and 8s on board? Just keep working on your skill set. Get better at your questions. You saw how Gurneet's tonality was? Like, man, I'm like, who's gonna say no to that guy to start in his company? Like, he's just like touching your heart, right? So it's the tonality. Practice your tonality. So anyone that talks to you, they just feel that you're so genuine, and be present, be connected with them. I think that's a huge one. Your ability to bring anyone on board, no matter what, should be on point, right? Let your manager decide whether or not they're gonna bring them on board. Your job is to make sure that people like you, people want to spend time with you, people want to be here. Number 4, this really helped me a lot when I was in Adam's office, to get really good at just, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I just didn't know if I should hire someone or not. And then Adam kind of like had this rule. He's like, if they're not a hell yes, they're a no, right? But I didn't know how to score them. Like, I didn't know sometimes if they were like, I'm like unsure. And I don't know if you guys are, in that mindset sometimes or not. Obviously, after a while, you're doing it for so many years, you get like, you can just tell. We just get so good at reading people. But this kind of like 5 things really help me to score people out of 5 things, really help me. So if you're newer to the interviewing game, you want to elevate your game, this might help you a little bit. So the things that I want to kind of like score them in my mind as I'm going through the interview is, number 1 is their student mentality. Are they coachable? Are they asking questions? Or are they just quiet for waiting for me to ask them questions? Are they taking notes? Are they willing to learn? So I would score them out of 5 for their student mentality. Number 2 is their level of excitement. Like, what's their energy like? How excited are you to start learning and growing? What's their level of energy? What's their level of excitement? Do they bring that eagerness? Number 3 is big picture thinking. And, obviously we interview a lot of younger people. They don't have to know always like figure out what their why in life is, but to kind of have some kind of goals in their life. They gotta have some kind of goals, right? So what is it that their big picture mindset is at? Where are they at with that? Next thing is work ethic. Do they show resilience? Do they show discipline? Like Ken's example, oh, my parents they're immigrants, they work so hard, and they, like that. To me, I know he had a great example of work ethic, right? I'm just hearing this out and I take notes on that so I can score him. Work ethic would be a high one because I can't teach that. Next one is people skills. Can they just have a normal conversation? Can they connect? Can they build rapport with me? They don't have to be, trying to sell ice here to Eskimo, but they gotta be at least be able to have a normal conversation with me. And then the last thing is, are they gonna be a good culture fit or not? Right? And that's an easy one. It's like a yes or no. At the end of the day, and Julia was talking about it in our conference a few days ago. Would you want to spend 8 hours in the field with them? Would you want to grab a beer after the field with them? Right? Would you be okay with spending so much time with that person yourself? And just scoring them out of these 5 things: student mentality, level of excitement, big picture thinking, work ethic, people skills, whether or not they're a good culture fit. This helped me a lot to just be able to determine whether or not someone is a yes or a no. But these are the 4 things I had. Gurneet and Ken, I hope it was helpful.
Yeah, super helpful. And to your point, Shalon, when you're new into doing anything, you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know how to evaluate someone, and like you said, perfect practice makes, gets you the results you want, right? So if you're just getting into this part of your career, there's nothing wrong with evaluating someone and the things that Shalon went over and then sitting in front of your manager if they do make it into the next step, and then, hey, what was your feedback, right? Was I aligned with, with what, how I evaluated them? That's how you learn anything, is you kind of break down your day a little bit like we do in the field. So, Gurneet, any other final thoughts? I know we wanted to wrap up here in about 8 minutes. Shalon, that was really awesome stuff.
I
Thank you
mean,
so
that
much.
was phenomenal. Guys, one last thing, remember it's a LOA game, right? I know a lot of times sometimes we look at recruiting and we get negged out about our issue. Just look at the facts. Just like we learn the numbers in the field, learn the recruiting numbers. Sit down with the owner and leaders, and they'll share with you, and you'll be able to figure out what are the issues, and you'll be able to figure out what's right and wrong. So just remember, guys, it's a process, but all these little things are the biggest difference makers. It's not like the energy, our tonality, our expressions, what we're looking at, and what Shilan spoke about, what Ken spoke about. These are the things people are attracted to, that type of person. And I think if you guys use this on a day-to-day basis, it should be big. So yeah, Ken.
Yeah, love it. I'll tell you guys, I know for me, my own recruiting experience 20 some years ago, I did 26 second interviews and no one liked the position. That's called law of averages. At least one should have liked it. You know what I mean? So at least one. And keep in mind, they all loved the position when they talked to Michael Sessions, my promoting owner, way back when, and they didn't like it when they talked to me. So there was something I had to change and something I can only imagine. I know Shalon talked about the amount of money people spend on recruiting. He must have been like, oh my God, I'm wasting all of this on him. But thankfully, he never gave up on me. And listen, we don't do that either today. We know that there's a learning process when it comes to the recruiting. The more time you spend working on your craft, the better results you get sooner. I know for me, I didn't really have, again, you can imagine, I never had someone show me how to take a second interview. I literally learned over a Zoom call with a guy named Matt Osborne. And he explained how he did his second interview, and I took notes and I just copied that on my second interview. So things have changed. We have a lot of working together and buddy systems nowadays, so it shouldn't take that long. But again, really super proud of all you guys that took the time today on your off day to get on this call. We're going to do this call for 3 more weeks, so a total of 4 calls. Today's recruiting. Next week, we're going to talk about training. And then we're going to go over a couple more topics around the field and team building, etc. Invite more owners on. But thank you guys. Have an awesome Tuesday, and we'll see you guys next time.